Hey everyone, how are you doing? I hope you're safe, healthy, and happy wherever you are. May you always stay protected from harm, and may every hardship in your life be lifted. For those who are sick, I hope you find healing, and for the souls who've passed on, may they rest in peace. Please keep me and my family in your thoughts, just as I keep you in mine. Now, let's get into tonight's story. But before we begin, just a warning. Tonight's story is terrifying. If you're someone who scares easily, maybe this one isn't for you. But if you're brave enough to stay, make sure the lights in your room are on. And maybe check under your bed and around your room just to be sure you're really alone. All right, let's begin. The story comes from one of my longtime subscribers. She told me she and her sister listen to my stories regularly. She didn't want to share her name, but she said this happened years ago when she was still in middle school here in the US. Her school was built in a strange location. Before it was a school, the land used to be the site of an old courthouse, where prisoners were kept and sometimes punished. The courthouse was demolished, and in its place, the district built a school. But here's the thing, not every part of that courthouse was gone. Some of the old rooms still stood. Long, dark, unfinished halls with half-broken walls and massive stone pillars. Rooms that were never used, always abandoned, except for a janitor who kept some tools in there, like a lawnmower and other equipment. Students were warned not to go in there. She said this happened when she was in 6th grade. It was recess time. The playground was right across from the main building for grades 1 through 6. Off to the right was the old courtyard, the remains of the courthouse. That's where the school's snack bar was set up. So during recess, kids would go there to grab chips, sodas, candy. But one day, something terrifying happened. Out of those old, dark rooms came a snake. Not just any snake. She said it was huge, longer than anything she'd ever seen in her life. Jet black, thick, moving slowly across the cracked cement floor. The kids screamed so loud that the teachers in the staff room came rushing out. Even the principal ran over. Everyone just stood there frozen, watching this massive black snake slither through the broken old structure. Some of the kids started crying. She said she couldn't breathe. She'd never seen anything like it. The janitor, an older man everyone called Mr. Joe, whispered that when you see something like this, you're not supposed to attack it. He said, sometimes these things, they're not animals at all. They're something else. You're supposed to pray and back away. But the principal laughed it off. He didn't believe in superstition. He said, it's just a snake. Kill it. The janitor refused. He was too scared. So the principal himself grabbed the shovel and struck the snake over and over until it stopped moving. Then he wrapped it in a bag and threw it away somewhere. But that's when things started getting really strange. Within days, students began experiencing weird, terrifying things. One girl, just a grade younger than the storyteller, went to the bathroom after school had ended. That bathroom was built over what used to be a cemetery. The graves had been cleared, and now there were restrooms for boys and girls. She was nervous already. Most of the kids hated going there because it always felt heavy, dark. She didn't even lock the stall door because she was scared of being alone inside. She just let it stay a little open. But when she finished and went to leave, the door slammed shut, hard. She hadn't touched it. She hadn't locked it. And now, no matter how much she pulled, It wouldn't budge. She started panicking, banging on the door, screaming for help. But the school was empty. The janitor and the security guard were far on the other side of campus. No one could hear her. Then she felt it. A hand on her shoulder. She froze. Her whole body locked up. Slowly, terrified, she turned her head. No one was there. And then her voice stopped working. She said it was like something stole the sound out of her throat. She tried to scream, but no sound came. She tried to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She felt something pressing down on her chest, heavy, crushing, until she couldn't breathe. The last thing she remembered was collapsing to the bathroom floor. She was found later by a custodian who went in to clean. The girl was unconscious, pale and trembling. There were bloodstains on her clothes, cuts on her fingers, her lips bleeding. No one knew where the blood had really come from. After that, she was never the same. For weeks, she was mentally and physically shaken. When she finally returned to school, she told everyone what happened. But the teachers brushed it off. They said she must have just gotten scared or fainted. The students, though, they believed her, because they had felt it too. The strange heaviness, especially in the bathrooms and classrooms near the old courthouse ruins. Some girls even fainted in there. And once, a girl died in there. The hauntings only grew worse. One day, the principal was driving home when a black dog suddenly appeared in front of his car. He slammed the brakes, sure he'd hit it. But when he jumped out to check, the dog was gone. Shaken, trembling, he collapsed right there in the street. Security guards had to help him back up. Not long after, a new science teacher came to work at the school. Since housing was expensive, the principal offered him a room above the old cafeteria near a massive oak tree on the property. The janitor had always warned the kids never to play near that tree, saying, "Things live in there, don't mess with it." The teacher didn't believe in such things. That night, restless and unable to sleep, he decided to take a walk. He wandered the schoolyard, flashlight in hand, until he reached the playground and the old well. That's when he saw someone sitting on the well. An old man, hunched, long hair, shoulders draped in a sheet. His hair reached all the way to the ground. The teacher thought it was just the janitor. He called out, telling him to be careful or he'd fall in, but the man didn't respond. Then, out of nowhere, something shoved the teacher hard from behind. He fell, nearly into the well, catching himself on the muddy ground. Heart pounding, he spun around with his flashlight. No one was there. But when he looked back at the well, the figure was gone. And standing in its place was something else. Something tall with impossibly long hair, its face hidden beneath. The teacher screamed. Other staff ran out and found him collapsed on the ground, unconscious. When he woke later, he was so shaken he needed to be taken to the hospital. But it didn't stop there. Kids on the playground started acting strangely. One boy, just 7 years old, stood on top of a swing upside down, perfectly balanced on his head, something no child could do. When the gym teacher shouted at him to get down, the boy only laughed. His eyes turned red. His laugh echoed across the entire schoolyard, so loud the students inside the classrooms heard it. It took 5 or 6 teachers to restrain him, his body unnaturally strong. Eventually, the vice principal, who was also a minister, prayed over him until the boy collapsed. But it wasn't the only one. Other students began lashing out, screaming in strange voices, breaking chairs and throwing desks in class. Doors slammed shut on their own. Papers went missing and were later found muddy and ruined near the old well. Children were pushed down staircases by unseen hands. One girl's head split open after she was shoved down a flight of stairs. It was chaos. Every day, something new happened. Finally, a man who wasn't even part of the school visited the principal. He told him, "You should never have killed that snake. You've disturbed something, and until it's answered for, these things will keep happening." The principal demanded to know who he was or what he meant, but before he could explain further, the man walked away, and the haunting continued. This was just the beginning, because what happened next was even darker. After that warning, things at the school spiraled even further out of control. Teachers tried to ignore it, saying kids were just exaggerating. But deep down, everyone knew something was seriously wrong. The bathrooms became the most feared place on campus. Students would rather hold it in all day than walk into those dark stalls alone. Whenever someone had to go, they'd ask 2 or 3 friends to stand outside the door and wait for them. One boy told the storyteller he once went in and heard whispering, his own name, coming from the stall right beside him. He swore no one else was inside. He ran out without even zipping up. Another student claimed to have seen footprints, wet, muddy footprints, leading from stall to stall, but there was no water on the floor. And then came the night that changed everything. A group of kids from the upper grades thought it would be funny to sneak into the schoolyard after dark. They heard all the rumors and wanted to see if the ghost stories were real. They slipped through a gap in the fence and headed straight toward the oak tree and the old well. At first, it was quiet. Too quiet. Even the crickets weren't chirping. Then, they heard it. The swing set, creaking slowly, back and forth. But the swings were moving on their own. No wind, no one near them, just creaking. The kids froze. One of them laughed nervously, saying maybe it was just the breeze. But then, a shadow appeared. Tall, thin, its hair long, black, covering its face. It stood by the swing set, completely still. And then it turned its head toward them. The kids screamed and bolted, but as they ran, one of them tripped, falling hard to the ground. He said he felt a hand, ice cold, grab his ankle. The others pulled him up, dragging him as fast as they could until they made it out of the school grounds. Later, when they checked his leg, there was a handprint burned into his skin like frostbite. Word spread fast. Parents began pulling their kids out of school. Teachers called in sick. Even some staff refused to show up. The principal, desperate to calm things down, decided to invite a priest to bless the entire school. On the day of the blessing, students and staff gathered in the courtyard. The priest lit candles and began to pray. But as soon as he started, the wind picked up. Papers flew everywhere. Doors slammed shut on their own. And then everyone saw it. A black figure darting across the yard. Sometimes it looked like a man, sometimes like an animal. Its body shifted, flickering like smoke. The priest shouted louder, holding up a cross. The figure let out a scream so loud it rattled the windows. Some kids fainted. And then everything went still. The candles blew out. The figure was gone. But the priest warned them it wasn't over. He said the land itself was cursed. No blessing could erase what had happened there. And he was right. Even years later, strange things continued. Teachers whispered about hearing footsteps in empty halls. Students swore they saw faces peering out of windows in classrooms that had been locked for months. One night, the janitor himself quit after nearly being dragged into the old well by something he couldn't see. The principal eventually resigned. New ones came and went, but the stories never stopped. The subscriber told me that even now, long after she graduated, when she drives past that school, she still feels uneasy. She says the windows always look darker than they should. And sometimes, if you stop your car and really listen, you can still hear the swings creaking, back and forth, back and forth, even when the wind is completely still. So, tell me, would you have gone into that school? Or would you have stayed as far away as possible? Because some doors, once opened, can never be closed again.